Now, we officially kick off the recordings. Here we go. This is episode number 82, the 18th of June, 2026. We are locked and loaded. They've got plenty of topics today, plenty of topics. Probably won't cover hardly any of them because we will just keep chatting away. Western Queensland. Now, that's a beauty to come on board. We haven't seen that there. And Goondiwindi, I've been through Goondiwindi. I think I stayed in Goondiwindi there a couple of nights. Very, very interesting place. Love it. And yes, well, most of Australia, lovely all across the board, and all of our people from overseas as well. Now, a couple of little boxes we'll tick before we get into it, people. One, updates. We've just got a recent update that's come out, and that is from MyZucoins.org, which is fantastic, from our CTO, Robert Novak. Fantastic. A couple of meetings we've had this week, Rob. We love you, mate. We love you. We love Peter. Alan helping out. Had another good meeting with a ZuCoin holder today, and very lovely coffee going through it, making sure, double checking, because we do have some old apps. Not many, just a few, handful really. Well, that's not quite right. There's more than a handful. There's a couple of handfuls. And when you see the little reminder as you open your wallet, it'll tell you what to do to get a new wallet off the new links, because it just makes it more efficient when it comes to the notifications. Save us sort of migrating stuff across. So don't panic. Make sure you back up first. Back up. You back up, you will not have a problem. Put your backup in the files on your phone. Put them on a USB. Get them onto that hard drive. Do any of that stuff that you want, and you shall be able to easily go through the processes. Now, the other update that's come out, there's another refinement on some of the developer docs. We're getting to the pointy end, people. We're getting some nice development docs now, which goes through a lot of the good stuff that developers can get into, especially for the pre-form sender transfer codes, which is available. Developers will understand what that's about. You've also got, obviously, the capacity for passwordless login, a world first. You need to understand we're doing a lot of world first things in ZuCoins and Zutopia and Zukaz, and of course split chain. So just make sure you, if you're a developer, start to get your head around that, because then we're going to get closer and closer down the road. After we switch the Zutopia back on, we will be then looking to start the ball rolling with some pretty exciting Zoo tokens, which is the fractionalization of a ZuCoin, and how that, people, is going to operate into ownership proofs on the split chain, a world first as well, and open the floodgates to you guys making money. And you've got to make money, because our great friends in government, Albo and Jimbo, now they've unleashed the shackles a little bit today. For those around the world, we're having a running gun battle with those that think they know what they're doing in power, and those that think they want to advise those that think they know what they're doing in power. And this is where we come back to the incentives that are needed across the board because of CGT. That's our capital gains tax issues, our negative gearing issues, entrepreneurs, and the flood of people that are heading to New Zealand. Well done, New Zealand. Very nice spot over there. We've got some great friends in New Zealand. Say hello to Peter and the family down there. But no point coming back here, Pete. You might as well stay there, because you're certainly not going to get the breaks that you need, even though we've seen some changes today. Dr. Zoo's not going to go through them all, but you can rest assured it's still a cluster. It is a cluster. These blokes do not know what the hell they are doing, and we can talk a bit more about that shortly, because it impacts on your life and how you're going to be. Carve-outs. I mean, fair dinkum. They think it helps people, and all it does is creates even more mess. But good news, people. It gives more work to the accountants, the lawyers, and those that need extra income and revenue for their big houses and things they're buying at your expense, because no one else can work it out. I actually did some work today. You'd be pleased to know, people, Dr. Zoo just doesn't sit around after his coffee with a wonderful ZuCoin holder. Chris, you know who you are, Chris. Anyway, that was a good test today. Thank you very much for doing that. Taking time out to have a nice coffee, and there we were, going through your wallet. Interesting. Now, Dr. Zoo is intrigued by how these things happen. How does it build this momentum to stupidity? He's done a thesis on capitalism versus stupidity. Makes a lot of sense. And let me say this. I think we're getting to the bottom of where the stupidity barrel starts. If you get to the bottom of the barrel where it starts, you can work your way back up. Crawl out of that barrel, everybody, and then you'll start to realise that it's a world phenomena. Every country, doesn't matter whether you're capitalistic, socialistic, it is just part of the globalisation of stupidity. Look at the Iranians there. Hey, how clever are they? A memorandum of understanding. Yep, Dr. Zoo produced one of them this morning. It was a beautiful one. There he was, using the toilet paper. Anyway, that memorandum of understanding. Good God, and they're going to get a check. They're going to get some money. You get blown up, you get some money. Unbelievable. Dr. Zoo's looking for some government grants actually on the same sort of scenario. He's happy to sign a memorandum of understanding with any government body today, right here, right now, and he'll make sure he can confer with the parties to be that will work in our favour as the ZuCoin family. Now, let's have a look. We had some great responses from people saying, Dr. Zoo, you're a fair man. You're a fair-minded man. You treat everybody with great respect. There's a lot of loyalty out there, and even the young ones that want to try and tap into the knowledge base and share that wisdom. Even though Dr. Zoo's been around a long time, he's always wanting to be in a position of learning things. Knowledge, the power of knowledge. We'll talk about how that knowledge is compounding to where we ended up with the disincentives for these young people to make money and produce powerful capital gains tax, which is why we say now at the moment, spend 4 years in New Zealand, you won't have to worry about a thing. That's a promotion for the New Zealand government. Very smart people indeedy. Very smart people over there to pull in all of us from Australia out of this country. Now, a couple of questions. Let's touch on these again because they're very good. We do quite enjoy the freedom that you have to talk to Dr. Zoo about whatever's on your mind. Now, friendly creature, you're suggesting that your contact there keeps breaking up, or is that just me? I'm afraid to say, given that we have others that are sending notes in and responding to Dr. Zoo's voice, it's you. Nothing much I can do about that other than suggest respectfully you sort out your internet, your Wi-Fi, your telco, your satellite dish. There's a lot of things you can do. Phone, or just listen to Dr. Zoo with the occasional voice that comes through as a result of that. So sorry I can't help you there, friendly creature, but good luck with that. Not sure where you are, but the world is not perfect yet until we all start to see the power of us all heading to Mars because of SpaceX. Now, speaking of SpaceX, before we get to some of these questions, we write about the upside. The media loves talking about the upside. But what about last night? In one night alone. Now, Dr. Zoo's not quite sure. He's ran out of zeros trying to do the maths on this, but there seems to be about 12.6 billion shares in SpaceX, which the great man has a voting control plus a big equitable interest, about 48%, I think, from the little document there. And, what happens is this. It goes down. Now, it went down in price, and it went down, let me just say, not a lot. Doesn't seem a lot, but it did go down, in terms of value, 4.95% last night, $9.98. But that seems to represent a drop last night alone of 124 billion. Now, Dr. Zoo would start to get the shivers to think, whilst it's on paper, and it did go up, you've got to look at the upside versus the downside. It did go up. We take our hat off to that, but it has gone down. 124 billion in one night. That must be a world record. Now, I don't know the statistics of this or whether that's right or wrong or whether Mark Zuckerberg copped a big shellacking there at one stage with his price drops, but certainly dropping a capitalized value by 124 billion in one night is amazing. And particularly when you think about it, the share price is at $191 and the all-time high seems to be 52-week high at 225. So some person out there, some institution, one of your super funds, no doubt, probably the Australian government body, which had invested at $225 a share, is bleeding, lots of red, bleeding lots of red. So we don't think about those sort of people, but I would much rather be in Dr. Zhu's shoes with the possibility of the market capabilities that we have, the technology we have, the database potential we have. We're going to give it a fair shake. We're going to give it a fair shot at making this as big as humanly possible, rather than worrying about the next 100,000 satellites that have got to go out there and dodge each other. Be like dodging ball up there. Imagine the little programs, trying not to hit the other satellites. And then desperately trying to have a focus meeting in the mornings at SpaceX head office and talk about how you're going to get roughly 23% of the world's GDP. Maybe a lot of that will come in from Iran, seeing as they're getting a big share of the world GDP now with their memorandum of understanding. What a coup that is, eh? You build a nuclear reactor, a bomb, and that's the sort of compensation you get. Should have been flattened a long time ago. But anyway, Dr. Zhu's not in a position of power. He's not the President of the United States. He's not the Prime Minister of this great country. What is he? He's just Dr. Zhu. Now, somebody's posted a little picture here, and it's from Empathetic Stranger. Says, looks like you'll need to update the instructions for iOS 27. No more 3 dots. Yes, and I think if you look at that picture, Dr. Zhu's looking at it now. That's for the Zutopia, from what I can see. You'll find that we have had that instructions already updated, because we put the 3 dots there. If I go to the ZuCoin wallet as well, it's a very good point, because we like to make sure that people know what they're looking at. But when you download that or the Zutopia one, let's just play with this here while Dr. Zhu's looking at it, because he gets himself worked up. He likes mass adoption and doesn't like to think that some poor person's missing out because Apple keeps changing the goalposts, which drives us absolutely insane. But nevertheless, now I'm looking at one of the wallets and you'll see it says tap the 3 dots. But next to it, we've got a little asterisk that says if visible. So what we've tried to do is not account for both scenarios, because even though you got iOS 27, the phone itself, which is earlier models, can still have either the 3 dots at the bottom, which I'm looking at right now. So that's correct. If visible, you press that. Alternatively, it has the share icon, and you can go straight to that and tap that. So we've tried to say, look, just keep an eye on either the 3 dots or the share, and then you'll be fine. And that's the same with that is the same as you can see with Zutopia, people. But listen, any of that stuff, by the way, if you're still concerned and you want to help out because you're bringing on hundreds of new people, which is fantastic news, then guess what? Send your Zutopia pictures and queries to support@zutopia.com. Anything to do with the ZuCoin wallet or ZuCoins, send to support@zucoins.com. I'd like to actually send out a bit of a note to those with Android phones, just as a double check. If you can, if you've got the old Android there, Android's got some quirky installation ones happening at the moment too. They've been upgraded, and usually on iPhone we've got people with dozens of wallets that they all sit on their homepage. But on the Android, it seems that you might have 1 or 2, but that gets a bit stretched after that and can cause some little issues. So if you've got an issue with your Android and you need to install a new wallet, give it a go. Make sure you back the thing up first, because that'll be the bad news for you guys. If you lose your coins and you haven't backed up, it's Newton's third law starts to come into play. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Your reaction will be that you're distressed, potentially lost shitloads of money as we get into the thick of things with Zutopia. Our reaction will be it's fantastic news because the less coins, it means the better the price. There's less supply. And that's the old quantity theory of money. That is demand and supply. So less coins equals, greater demand equals a better price for the rest of us. So whilst there'll be some sadness initially and we'll be thinking of you and you've lost your coins, vast majority of us will be delighting in your news, in the knowledge that we can bring out the champers and start celebrating that you've lost your coins and everybody else has got theirs, and the price can go up a lot quicker. So that's very brutal, but there you go. Now, let's have a look at a couple of other little queries here. We have Timid Buddy. Do you have any other developers engaged apart from the CTO? Well, we don't want to share any news on that. Why would we have commercial in confidence news? In fact, I think it was Timid Buddy. Last discussion, we had a great banter going back and forward because Timid's so excited about his coins and pumped up and just can't wait to become a multi-millionaire that he's got all his head's filled with all these wonderful questions, which is awesome for the rest of us. But Timid, let me say this: some things we don't want to talk about what we're doing, and developers can come and go, and away they go, and away we go. We do have competitors out there. We do have industrial espionage. We do have all sorts of those wonderful things, and if we share that, we will. If we don't, we don't. So there you go. And probably the same. I was thinking too the other day when Tim had raised these things about numbers. Dr. Zoo's been a bit, sometimes a bit too transparent on things, and we might leave it at some big milestones on some of the wallet numbers too. By the way, people, because it's we're getting some interesting characters coming in from different parts of the world that look a bit sus, and we don't like the sussy ones. But we've been bombarded with some attacks on our servers, which is okay. They've been penetrated and forced into oblivion. But I guess that's what happens once you start to get some attention and you start to get the excitement, and probably didn't help us a bit when we moved into stage 2 of the Australian Financial Review Innovative Companies Award. Now, how good's that? 2026, how good's that? Under the new definitions of this carve-out that Albo and Jimbo announced today, for those that are around the world, we warmly and affectionately call Anthony Albanese our Prime Minister Albo, and our great treasurer, Mr. Jim Chalmers, with his doctorate on philosophy of socialism, Jimbo. So they've come up with these ingenious ideas about how to try and stop the bleeding in terms of this problems they've caused with the latest budget we have here in Australia. And they think that's going to solve it, but it won't. It's causing more problems again. But good news for accountants and lawyers. Dr. Zoo can solve this entire tax problem in one hit. Fractionalisation of ZuCoins, no tax laws, no state laws. Get rid of the dimwits in the premiers of the states, particularly our great friend down there, Jacinta Allen. Don't even know what you call her, actually. You couldn't even think of Alan Bow. Doesn't make much sense. Nah, Jacinto, maybe. Anyway, we do have other names, which we can't disclose at this stage because they got a bit upset when someone decided to call her the witch. But they've got an issue with that because they can't get a definition on what a witch is under the Discrimination Act. So that's a problem until we get legislation changing that. But anyway, Timid Buddy, look, we're more interested in, I think from our discussion, you were going to post exactly how many new wallets that you've been able to source out there. So if you can do that, that would be awesome. And let's just see how many, have you posted any here numbers for us, Timid? No, we haven't got any numbers from Timid yet. But look, if you could put that up for everybody to see, that would be awesome. And just keep posting each session. So every Monday and Thursday, we're expecting Timid to put up some numbers for us and his little buddy. I can't remember his little buddy's name now, but try and put those up for us to see how you're going, because there's nothing stopping you guys, and you can have a little play with the latest developer docs on those fronts. And then, of course, with open source, look out. You'll get the first open documents really on the tokenization. That'll be huge. And we expect to see we want to see some people creating products, people. You know, sit back, you're not lazy, you get out there and you use and enhance the value of your coins. This is all about post-Zutopia trading, where you'll see the concepts that we're putting out, which is the ZUCAS, fractionalization of merchants, the firepower that we've got compared to the big guns on their advertising. You can all see that through the articles that Dr. Zoo's posted on his Zoo Vision and how that'll work. In fact, there's an article today that apparently someone leaked out of Facebook that they had banked $16 billion in advertising revenue through AIs that assisted scammers. Do you believe that? This is what we've been talking about. This is the control that you have through ZuCoins and ZuTokens. You have a legitimate merchant. You have a legitimate dollar value attributed to the fraction. You send it through AR around the world. You send it direct to the person that's got the ZuCoin or ZuCas wallet. You lock and load what you receive from that merchant, and you either use it or you put it on Zutopia to trade with, and you trade it to your heart's content and make money. Or you can go one step further and create your own value proposition for whatever real world assets that you can get your head on. Dr. Zoo cannot wait post getting some tokens up and about. We've got some nice test cases. We talk about Turfstar, which is the tokenization of real racehorses, and that's going to be an absolute bold terror, a game changer, as an example in that industry, one of the biggest industries in the world. Then you've got tokenization we want to do and build out the lottery. Now, I saw the lottery, Dr. Zoo's dream of that, because that's, remember, you wonder why Dr. Zoo wants to continue with getting the globalization of the lottery. Well, let me say this. That lottery's been around since the year 1694. You believe that? 1694. They ran out of money. Some bright ass over there at the Chancellor of the Exchequer in London said, let's have a lottery to raise £1 million so that we can defeat the Spanish, knock all their ships out. And they did. But the lottery continued. Now, that's called British premium bonds. That's what the concept is all about. The Dr. Zoo, nearly 30 years ago, introduced for this great country. Instead of having $1 trillion debt, you can have a lottery package as what they do in London. Now, the funny thing about that is, last count, there's about 250 to 300 billion pounds with the British government on their premium bonds. That's right, people, 250 billion pounds, and they're banking truckloads each month, a few billions each month. They're paying out. So the idea is, instead of going your lotto ticket tonight or your Powerball ticket, we know there's 20 million tonight, get on, and you're supporting the listed companies in relation to that, and taxes the Australian, well, not even Australian government, but state governments. That's how Jacinda gets to spend money on 360 million so that she can cover off on a contract that didn't happen with the Commonwealth Games here. We pay. The good thing about Australia, for those that are listening from overseas, our governments tend to pay things out on things that don't happen. That's how we work contracts here. If you have a great idea and you want to sign a big contract, it's better than a Iranian MOU, because in that case they had to take a few hits and a few bombs. But in our case, you can do a deal with the Australian state governments or federal, and then they get nervous and they cancel the contract, and then they pay you. They pay you out of taxpayers' money. So it's a great, wonderful way to splurge and increase, inflation and increase the interest rates, and then you get the Reserve Bank jumping around like a jackass because it can't control the situation. And that's what Jacinda's good at. She is exceptionally good at paying out stuff that has no return, like a road that didn't exist, or a tunnel. A tunnel, I think it was $1.5 billion. Now, if you circle back and you think about the lottery, that could have had that money sitting in the tin at no interest to the Australian government, utilised for the benefit entirely of the Australian government, where it goes into infrastructure projects, etc., like they do in England. And they put these things in play, and there's no interest. which means there's more money available to the projects that the Australian government wants to roll out. Now, I'm not saying that it's a great idea that we should be spending more on the Institute of Measurement. That seems a bit of a crazy idea to me, or, advertising on genital problems, but and that should be within the health department anyway, really. But having said that, the British premium concept, which Dr. Zhu and his team had the rights to globally, still does, that's the $4.3 billion claim against the government. That's why Dr. Zhu keeps pushing on that front and so excited about getting in the High Court soon. After 27 years, plus interest, and it gets paid on quarterly rests. This is what blew out Dr. Zhu's original liability, who he bought back, his trust bought back actually, and allowed Dr. Zhu to pursue that claim after all these years. It's a bit complicated. It's to do with equity and restitution and breaches of Section 83 of the Constitution, etc. But we won't go into that. All we're going to say is that all circles around the concept of this lottery. Now, since Dr. Zhu got stymied by the government, 33 states in America have rolled out the exact same British premium bond concept with bucket loads of money in that project, which is called Save to Win. In other words, you leave money with the government or the institution that guarantees the funds. You don't earn any interest, but that gives you, for every £10, one entry in a multi-million-dollar lottery each month. And they're paying them out by the bucket loads. 25 million people in England are in it now. Fantastic. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. So when you think about the scope and firepower of that, that's what incentivizes now that the technology's caught up, because, let me say this, Dr. Zhu had another look at the statistics the other day with the national savings body that runs the premium bonds in England. They've just released their latest report, and the tokenization will be a global phenomena, because you can now use the ZuCoin as the fractional representation of the effective lottery ticket. And that can be that each person that holds fractions or holds of ZuCoins could be registered as participating in this globalized British premium bond type concept. It's worth a fortune. Now, what intrigued Dr. Zhu is that it's very antiquated, the systems overseas. And it's funny, we've spent 55 odd million, probably a bit more now because there was a bit more going out the door for lawyers the other day, but that's not a lot. That's chicken shit compared to some of the expenses that Dr. Zhu saw in the accounts of the British premium bonds just yesterday. And let me say, there's a company called Atos. Atos. It's a listed company worth a few billion, $8 odd billion. And guess what? They have been putting in play to try and upgrade the systems and transfer all the employees across from the British premium bond concept, which is all about the lottery, because they're banking truckloads of money, absolute big money, about $9.9 billion coming in income. It's huge. Government gets all the capital, and they use it, and they do all sorts of wonderful things in UK. Actually, I won't say what they're doing either, because some of the stuff the UK government's doing, I mean, they must be getting tips from Albo. You cannot ingeniously think of this stuff yourself. I mean, it's too much. You can't possibly sit in a room and come up with some of this stuff that these people are doing. I'll talk a bit about how some of this stuff is actually created, because it's absolutely mind-blowing. But let's talk about the lottery. Now, what intrigued Dr. Zhu was that despite the technical upgrades, in order to just facilitate money in, money out, and the lottery, right? It's not hard. You put your money in, you put your right leg in, you put your right leg out. Now, you do that, and it shouldn't be hard to record the total balances that relate to what participants are in the lottery. It's all technical. Anyway, Atos, they say to the government, British government, look, we need a 6 or 8 year contract, and it's going to cost $230 million a year to run it. You believe it? Now, we're talking about a fractionalized token that's AI driven, that might cost north of $28,000 to tidy up the final apps that we're building, if we're lucky with AI, and globalise it with not a single person involved. And yet, this is our competitor. It's got to fund this couple of £100 million a year for these people to pretend they know what they're doing with the technology in order to put it in play and compete. That is an example of the firepower because we have the scalability on the split chain, people. We've talked about this ad nauseum. You've got to get your head on, yes, we'll get the excitement back with the coins. Yes, we're going to get all the things that we want to achieve because the quicker we get to 1,000, the quicker Dr. Zoo can get his Gulf Stream and go and see the king and queen over there about what's happening, how we can fix the problems over there using tokenization, which is what Larry thinks on about with BlackRock. There's a new world coming, and you can be participating in that, getting your heads on how to accelerate it, because that's part of the business modelling that can happen. And given, I suppose, this sort of low-level new elbow jimbo combo of changes today, there's still an incentive there to make a few bob here before you head to New Zealand. Alternatively, just go to New Zealand and be done with it. Singapore, New Zealand, Bahamas is nice this time of year, Bermuda, Cayman Islands, Malta. It just depends, where you want to sit. Because why would you want to put yourself through the pain barrier with these idiots? Create yourself as call it a unicorn. A unicorn's $1 billion plus business. And then you end up realising that you've just handed it over to one of the great premiers of this modern century, Jacinta Allen, so she can come out and get excited about her new legislation. And you wouldn't guess what that is, people, would you? You wouldn't in a million years think about the legislation she's trying to run through this week, and that's the work from home. Everybody wants to work from home. Great idea that is. It's just about going to decimate Victorian employers, I can tell you. And I think people forget it's all right to get pay rises, and Dr. Zoo's been down this road. You remember he was a bankrupt, so he knows what it takes to be at the lowest of the lowest, and then having the great times of the great times when things are good. Stick to asset protection. Asset protection. You can do that legally, properly. You don't need to get yourselves hanging around with corporations and companies. We've talked about this. Individual trustee, discretionary family trust as the manager, limited partnership tangled up with a unit trust, a hybrid unit trust, which then can give you access to capital. You get money in via capital and units, non-voting units. Look at old Elon. Hey, how good's that? He sits there. He doesn't care whether he loses $124 billion in a night. What the heck? Went up $500 billion a day before. But there's Jacinta getting excited about everybody working from home. Now, what a case example of some legislative changes in relation to that. Employers are going to be brutalised. Brutalised. It's all work from home. Let's see how that goes. How good's that? Now, Dr. Zoo does have a solution for businesses in Victoria to not get too concerned about the penalties that are things that are coming under these changes to the Equal Opportunity Act 2010. Jacinta's enshrining this in. She's so excited. First thing she hasn't done is realise that it actually looks like it might be unconstitutional. Now, some genius down there rushes through this legislation, drafts this legislation. The peanuts in Parliament wouldn't have a clue what they're looking at. I don't care what parliamentarian you're talking about. No one reads these things. And all of a sudden, Dr. Zoo's had a look, and I can tell you now, it would be a fair call to say, despite having to go through the costs, because you've got to go through the courts and lawyers, and you've got to do all that stuff. I mean, Dr. Zoo spent 27 years trying to get in the High Court, 12 attempts, finally be able to get in. Takes a lot of money and time, but nevertheless, some employer down there will have a gut full of this, and Dr. Zoo can tell you that already the sections in relation to work from home are inconsistent with the Fair Work Act 2009 of the Commonwealth. Now, if you've got an inconsistency, guess what prevails? Not Jacinta. So, Jacinta, if you're listening, we say that whole lot of rubbish that you printed out the other night, wasting paper from the Amazon, is unconstitutional. You're going to need some advice. It's just ridiculous. Now, let's just take a breather here, people, because I want to circle back as to it was a great leveler for Dr. Zoo. Dr. Zoo wanted to find out who creates these laws. I mean, Jacinta hasn't got the intelligence enough to sit down and write a 1,000-page, Equal Opportunity Act variation and amendments to the 2010 Act. There's just no way. She couldn't do that on a weekend if she tried, even though she probably would be best for all of Victoria if she did work from home for 2 days a week. It'd be great. She couldn't do it. And Dr. Zoo wanted to go down that rabbit hole and actually find out, well, where are these people? Where do they exist that wake up every day and say they're going to create a new law? Who are they? We can isolate and say Albo and Jimbo don't do that. There's not enough intelligence between the pair of those guys. They can come up with ideas and thrash it round and ideas that make no sense, and then try and get someone else to put that into a form that sort of makes sense because it's got paragraphs and sections and numbers that look like a draft piece of legislation. But Dr. Zoo was intrigued. Who starts this stuff? Is there a body of long-term intelligent bureaucrats? But I'll talk about that in a minute because it was fascinating what he found. Now, I may not have uncovered completely all of the ins and outs as to who to pinpoint this stuff to, but there's a couple of leading lights that we'll share in a minute, and it relates to both New South Wales laws, Victorian laws, and the Australian laws at a Commonwealth level. Let's tackle a couple of questions while we're in this happy mood at the moment. Here we go. Now, as he looks through the list here, we've got Timid Companion. Question is, when trading, if you have 20 for sale with a minimum order of 1, if someone buys 1, does the listing remain with 19 left, or would you list again? As I understand it, Timid, you're talking about partial orders. I can say to you that you're left with 19. It just takes it out and it stays there. You don't need to relist. But if you are still concerned about that, please send your query to support@zutopia.com. I know Riley's listening. Riley, hello, Riley. Shouldn't be at the beach right now. You should be listening a bit closer to home, but that's what happens when staff decide to work from the beach, not work from home. And they can position themselves with all of the support and IT that we have up there, which is beautiful. But Riley, if you're listening there, which I'm assuming you are, just see if you can address that little question there, because I'm pretty sure the concept is that orders are filled and then the balance is left. But there's still that time cycle as well. Just remember there's a cycle, I think it's 3 hours, that leaves that listing there for you to, you have to relist that, because we don't want crappy old orders sitting there for weeks and weeks on end. We want intuitive and we want user-friendly people that are dealing directly with each other, which is a crucial feature that you guys create your own market. You're a buyer, you're a seller, you deal directly with each other. We have nothing to do with your coins. We have nothing to do with your transfer. And that is for great reason, which in the long term, you'll realise why we've spent millions of dollars on legals around the world to make sure that both the ZuCoin itself, the fractions, the merchant tokenization, and also the split chain is sitting very sweetly with the regulators. We don't get them all worked up. We can get the politicians worked up. We can only get all the regulators worked up. That's where the real power is. The tail wags the dog. There's no question of that. And with the new laws that are coming in, like you wouldn't believe, around the world, we are sitting very, very comfortable, touch wood. For example, Dr. Zoo got an email today from a very, very close friend over there in Europe, because Europe's a big play for us. As you know, the more people we get around the world and they're comfortable dealing with each other and they don't have money problems, because we don't have any custodialship. When I say we talk about Zutopia, and we don't have anything to do with your money. It goes straight at your instructions from Stripe to the seller, which is fantastic. That's looking absolutely superb at the minute, because we're still just waiting on the AUSTRAC, but that's one area that just gives us that extra level of comfort for the KYC because of the way we've structured the underlying model, which is very important. But I got an email today from a great friend in Europe. Very, very astute person, by the way. Very well connected. And he's indicated that Al, which is Dr. Zoo, be ready that by July 1, 2,800 crypto exchanges across Europe will be shutting down out of a possible 3,000. They think there'll be barely 200 left because of the new laws, the MICA, M-I-C-A laws, which are very, very similar to what's in play in America and not so much here to the extent in Australia, but certainly those laws is what Zutopia falls outside of, and we are not going to get tangled up with the consequences of what the EU is going to smash these ones out of the park. They're going to close. They're going to be gone, and you will find that there will be a mass exodus of people getting their custodialship back and then wondering what to do with the trading. Now, Dr. Zoo has ideas. He's an ideas man. And sometimes it goes straight to the pool room. Sometimes the ideas sort of, reside on the computer here, and there's a flashing light that reminds Dr. Zoo of some of these ideas. But there will be people that will be saying, if you've got other crypto like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so on, and you're struggling because the exchanges are getting smashed, it's getting harder to, we warned about this a couple of years ago. Dr. Zoo, it's on the website, warned about these problems, and the red flag went up. That's why we built Zutopia. That's why we're very comfortable with the technology. We're the only technology that allows the peer-to-peer two-factor authentication that you guys control your wallets. You are the wallet controllers. You are the validators. You don't need miners. You are in full control. You do what you like. But because of that structure, that allows the off-exchange transfers. Is the only one in the world. Now, I'm always happy to be challenged and taken on. That's why we love these little blokes that come in here and get themselves all worked up and excited. Because at the end of the day, the vast majority of people simply want to become wealthy, which is important. Because the feedback that Dr. Zoo gets, generally is about greed and people wanting to be wealthy. In fact, Dr. Zoo thought he'd have a bit of a reminder for some of these things because let's just see and remind ourselves about an earlier generation on greed and how that operated. Let me just say this. Have a think about this for a minute, and then we'll circle back.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works. Greed clarifies, cuts through, and captures the essence of the evolutionary spirit. Greed in all of its forms. Greed for life, for money, for love, knowledge, has marked the upward surge of mankind, and greed, you mark my words, will not only save Teldar paper, but that other malfunctioning corporation called the USA.
Yes, amazing, hey? For those that weren't born back then, Wall Street, Gordon Gekko, there he is, and that's the sort of, not everybody, people do have some good intentions and things, but generally those words resonate because that's what people look at when they look at things like trading in SpaceX, greed. They don't sort of talk about it much when you lose 124 billion in a night, but that's where ZuCoins comes in. We've got a lot of this young crew that want to get involved and are very, very greedy and excited, which is not a bad thing. We can handle that. We can get on with that. There's no question at all in that regard. So when you think about the strategy, while these exchanges are collapsing around us, and I did flag the other day, great mate Morty. I haven't spoken to Morty. I'm not sure what Morty's going to be doing. This is from Elbait. And we did have that convention up there with talking to Morty. I was concerned about the structure of how the money was held in a custodial escrow account. It's not flagged very well on his site, but certainly it's in the terms and conditions. And Morty has sent out a notice that at the end of this month, which is not far away, Elbait will be shutting down after many, many years and lots of millions of dollars spent. And that will not be available as an exchange for people to trade their coins in terms of Bitcoins and Ethereums and Litecoins and those sort of coins. On the flip side, you've got someone else taking up that market share, a company called CoinSpot, as an example. CoinSpot, based out of Melbourne, and they're having a great time. I think the record showed they soaked out up to $1 billion in the family, Wilson family down there, 400 million in the last couple of years. Beautiful. What a dividend check. Now, the sad news is they've no doubt paid a lot of tax, and that's helping Albo and Jimbo with some of their exciting projects that they're now spending as a consequence of these mysterious dark people that are creating laws behind the scenes that you do not know who they are. Dr. Zoo's got a bit of a clue. He'll come back to that. But look at the exchanges. Now, a solution, people. There will be people and developers that say, hang on, let's recreate a trading world where they fractionalize a ZuCoin and wrap it around an existing Bitcoin, for example. If it can't trade in Europe because 2,800 exchanges are shut down, guess what? We can fill that void. Boom, boom, shakalaka. There would be a ZuCoin fraction that represents ownership of a fraction or a full Bitcoin that can be moved around at 3,000 miles an hour at 100,000 transactions per second without the real Bitcoin even rearing its ugly head out of a blockchain. It does not need to move. It's better than an ETF. Now, there might be some security laws in relation to that, but so be it. If the big guns come in and they want to use our rails, let's go for it. Let's bring in another asset class that can be then tradable. And you can go look it up. You can go to the Zutopia and you'll be able to search for, Harry and Guru's $20 token relating to their coffee. You'll be able to trade that as well. You'll be able to look at all sorts of goods and services. And then, lo and behold, someone else will have listed, which is verifiable on the chain, their wrapped Bitcoin or wrapped Ethereum, which means there's no fees on transfer. It could move around 50 million times. There's not one single process change in the blockchain because good old Satoshi, he failed. He failed miserably. He tried to create the ability to technically solve a double spend, and that double spend went pear-shaped. Went pear-shaped because that caused the creation of blockchain and the Great Wall of Blockchain. So these are just a couple of ideas. As I said, Dr. Zoo's very focused on his lottery because that's worth a lot of money, especially with the court case. You can see how that comes into play. But there are other things that Dr. Zoo wants to get busy with. If the markets collapse, which could easily happen with a rising interest rate because we've now got the new boy, Trumpy's new boy there, the federal chairman, and he's already indicated last night, look out, we're in trouble. Look out. More interest rate rises, inflation, we're worried. As soon as they start talking like that, you can bet your balls between now and the end of this year we're going to see some action, which is what can tweak the market and tip it very, very quickly. Remember, people, historically, I don't know what it is. I don't know whether the Americans go and live in isolated, huts out there in the snow or what it is because of winter. But come September, October, historically, for 100 years, that's when the best time is to see the biggest crashes in the market. Never fails. It's unbelievable. Dr. Zoo went through it in 1987, 19th of October. What a pain in the neck that was. Although the good news in hindsight was that Dr. Zoo got rid of all his tax problem, which meant that the dimwits in Parliament couldn't go and lose it. So they saved money. Dr. Zoo saved money. One of the greatest things ever happened. But it's in October, September, you start to get nervous. Just be careful. We're in June. We're starting to see some contraction. People start to worry. And it could be triggered by the big falls already. Some poor schmucks just lost $124 billion. Doesn't matter you say it's gone up. It's also gone down. That is SpaceX we are talking about. SpaceX is what we're talking about. Now, one of the things that my mate sent about these closures in Europe, 2,800 exchanges. You think about it. Everybody got worked up and upset about Dr. Zoo for worrying about not going down that road. Well, that means that if your coins are listed on those exchanges, they're stuffed. They're gone. Already we saw an announcement the other night that Tether, that's rat shit. The EU is getting rid of that. That's gone, $178 billion of that. You can still hold it, move it around yourself, but it's a pain in the neck. Not like our little ZuCoins. You can move them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Not a problem. No fees and charges, no miners, no nothing. Beautiful. Innovation, innovation, innovation. In fact, that word was amazing because Dr. Zhu and the team had to finish the other night, which we filed. We filed on the 16th of June, people, the stage 2 submissions, and it was quite extensive. This is for the Australian Financial Review Innovation Awards 2026. And hopefully we see the great man, Robert Novak, on stage. It's a possibility that that could be something that's so innovative in this environment for all of the right reasons, that is on its way to getting into the finals. But we're there now. We're in stage 2, which is a huge achievement. And I was quite surprised by the extent of the innovation that's been created, despite all of the negative hype and dribble that goes on. The back-end systems are unbelievable, which is now being reviewed by peers as a result of that. But my mate said to me, he said, look, why don't you look at, because of these other coins? I said, well, the solution really is these wraps. ZuCoins can wrap other coins around it. That creates a listing for those coins because they're in trouble. And we actually become a facilitator and a absolute solution globally to the way in which people can trade these other assets, including other crypto. Someone else can do it. That's the beauty of the system. The beauty of the system is it's a free place, a free market. You can come in and you'll be able to use the developer apps and go hell for leather in any ideas and concepts. But what he did say is that those that are trying to hang in there, that's the 200 of these exchanges that are left, right? 200 that are left and seeking licenses, they're going to pay for it now. So the application fees and legals alone is 500,000 euros. 500,000 euros. So you want to put your hand up and become a crypto exchange by the 1st of July, you send over 500,000 euros, which is a lot more than Australian dollars, I can assure you, people. All right, it's you do the maths, you get on the FX site and you see that it's not 500,000 Aussie. That's because our politicians here have buggered up our prices, so we're not one for one par value. Now, let me say this. That's once you get to that point, if you get the license. The second thing is the total costs. Once you start, and this is not the annualized cost that Dr. Zhu talks about, but the total costs in terms of capital, compliance, regulatory platforms that need to maintain, the customer database for these exchanges in relation to particularly AML, KYC, is another 2 million euros. 2 million. That's just the upfront. That's not even the annualized cost on top. So as you can see, there's going to be a lot more of that 200 that self-implode, because that's a lot of capital when the margins are tight. And you know what? Dr. Zoo's so excited and happy for Zutopia. Not only because we get our coins traded and we get our fractions running around and we get all the other bits and pieces, but we can be there to help others, which means we get a transition and access to other customer bases. Because where do these customers go? Where do these poor people that suddenly had accounts with these 2,800 exchanges go? Nowhere. They're rat shit. We're there. We're there to help. We're there to make it easy. We're there to create a platform that allows that truly decentralized platform marketplace to take over and put it in box seat. Remember the old turtle and hare? Well, now you're starting to see it. All these little pieces of the jigsaw are coming together. Magnificent, I can assure you. And then, of course, the dream of Dr. Zhu. One is cash flow, of course, on the lottery. That's huge. Two is the data that comes underneath through Zukaz. Massive, big money, which then can be used as liquidity pools for the overall structure of Zutopia to take the coins to levels you wouldn't believe. Get the Gulf Stream, whip around, go and see a few horse races and see how that pans out with tokenization as well. Everything you feel and touch becomes a token. Now, that just starts to open the gates to things like shares and takeovers. Because Dr. Zhu, he's been keeping a close eye on some of the stuff going on around the world. If there is a share market crash in September, October, if it is this year, it might be next year. But if it's there, generally, that's what happens. Happened in 1929, 1890. 2008, got ugly, 2000, 1987. If it happens, Dr. Zoo wants to be ready, because creating tokens of Zoo tokens of fractions can be used to take advantage of companies that get decimated as a result of share values plummeting. Never thought we'd see this again. Dr. Zoo thought he missed out in 1987, but no, it could be back. What that means is simple. The share price has collapsed below the NTA. That's the net tangible asset backing. Wouldn't go near SpaceX because that's just ridiculous. There's nothing tangible about that. That's just one big engine of money pit. Goes out, puts the satellites out there, and it's a frigging nightmare. Actually, what Dr. Zoo was thinking, and these are just thought bubbles, right? It's not getting excited now. It's not giving any advice. It's just playing with his head and sharing it with the little ZuCoin community. But the best thing Elon Musk could do is use the current paper value of SpaceX and launch a full bid for Google. Boom. Gobble it up. Make Google a subsidiary. 1 for 1. Ride that son of a bitch all the way to Mars. Take over Google. Why? Because you've got a combo there between AI and real cash flow. Google's got billions coming in. That could fund his dream. That could fund everybody with a front row seat on that spacecraft as our bodies start to transform and change as a result of no gravity, no oxygen, all those wonderful things. Now, what's that all about? It's all about creating the rails and the platform and the scalability underneath that through split chain. And that was what was starting to come out big time in this documents that we filled out in relation to the next stage, or stage 2 of the innovative company, because it actually blew Dr. Zoo away with the money spent and the firepower and the creation of the technology that's absolutely raring to go. I'm going to share a bit more about that on Monday, because it's a very, very comprehensive document, and it'll give you far greater insights on headings, for example, like we had to cover off on proof of adoption and stakeholder impact, commercial outcomes, sustainability outcomes in the future, the IP and knowledge creation, the decentralization, market disruption, defensibility of the innovation itself, differentiated value propositions and the narrative to that, market disruption signals that we covered off on, the degree of the novelty, the stakeholder alignment and buy-in, the way in which our customers, merchants, communities and regulators all come together for the long-term strategy that we've had mapped out for many, many years, the compliance and safety processes, the user interfaces that we keep talking about, how comfortable we are as long as you're backed up, haven't got a problem, don't share anything with anybody, make sure you know who the other receiver is, you've got verification, cryptographic signatures between the wallets. We don't need your private data. We don't want to give a damn who you are. That's up for Stripe and that's up for the others in terms of KYC and compliance, both environmental, social and governance, even those ugly words, ESG, you wouldn't believe it. And then, of course, you've got all sorts of referencing that we talk about in terms of the technology being responsible, because we don't have CO2 emissions, very minimal. It's already in your phone. We're not inventing anything new there. We don't need massive energy guzzlers in terms of consumption of computing power. We don't need that. Let someone else do that, the miners in Bitcoin. But you know what? Funnily enough, if we tokenize and create wraps around Bitcoin and the processes slow down with the miners, now they're going to go to business at some stage. There's only 1 million coins left. Then you have to have transaction fees. But if you can slow that down and we take the weight of the problem into the split chain, well, we don't have the friction there in terms of the scalability, in terms of the security. As a result of that, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of transactions per second can be processed, and Bitcoin sits there and does not absorb more energy. The CO2 problem, for those that are worried about that. Now, obviously, those that end up on Mars, you won't have a problem with CO2 because there's very little CO2 there, and all your problems go away. You don't have a climate change issue ever again for the rest of your lives. You sit up there, you've just got solar flares and things, but as long as you've got a shovel, you're able to bury yourself 3 or 4 meters under the ground and you'll be right every time those flares come through. So don't panic about that. If you are worried about climate, then you will be the first front running the campaign on Mars, because that worry will dissipate. It will be gone. We're at 5:01. I'm going to cut off a little bit today, but let's have a look at see if we've got a couple of wind down questions. Yes, we do have here, which is important. Emphatic Self has said that the MyZucoin app now says outdated app. That's only about 200 of the old apps from the old links. That's what I was talking about earlier. You would get a message when you open that app. If you haven't got the most recent apps, even though the version says 199 when you press the settings button, there are a group of these old apps from the original domain URLs that you will get a message that'll tell you the instructions on what to do. Basically, it says 1, back up what's in that app. 2, download the new app. 3, restore the data that you've backed up to the new app. And then finally delete the old app. Now, the reason we've done it this way on those ones in testing with Zutopia, because remember, we want the ability to have absolutely exceptionally fast transactions because of the instant notifications, which is working brilliantly, I must say. And it's going to go really rapidly quick around the world with it. Is that you don't want that messaging or that app not to be able to having the best, most efficient notifications, and we didn't want a migration on those handful of apps. When I say handful, I think it's about 200 out of 10,000 odd or 11,000. And if you've got that notification, then by all means follow those instructions. Or if you are worried, contact support at ZuCoins.com. The problem will go away very quickly if you follow the instructions. Read. If you don't read, then yep, and you haven't backed up, then the good news is you're helping the rest of us, because you will lose your coins and we will get the benefit of less coins in the system, which means we get a lot easier. We reduce supply and we get more on our price. Entirely up to you. That's the outdated app scenario, and that means that if you do that, you're going to get a far better experience with the notifications when you start trading. That's what we're all about. We are minimizing the friction and increasing the maximum usage with the downloads. So now you've come back and said, Emphatic Self, not going to reinstall wallet or restore my wallet. I have too much to lose. Well, then you may not trade efficiently when you do it. If you have backed it up, if you've backed your coins up and you've got them in files on your phone, or you've got them on a USB or your computer hard drive, or you've got it in iCloud, you won't have a problem as long as you can see that My Secret file is backed up. And then you can delete the old app and then just install a new one. There's links on the website as well. You can have a look at that and just download it and then restore. In fact, it's not a bad idea if you're not using your coins in Zutopia as the connection, because we've solved that problem. Remember, we had a problem we talked about in January and February. We copped a lot of flack. Dr. Zoo wasn't happy because people were copy and paste, and over 50s were having trouble of copying and paste the codes between the two wallets, that is the ZuCoin wallet and Zutopia. That's been solved. The boys have got around that iOS problem, and it's one-click installation. So if you do have a ZuCoin wallet, especially the current one, if it doesn't come up with that message, then of course it instantly loads and installs the Zutopia wallet, and you will see the connection of your coins there. If you're not doing anything, it's quite silly to be leaving your wallets on your phone anyway, right? Because we've had a few numbnuts that have lost phones and all sorts of things that have gone on and transferred data between phones and new phones, and they've lost it. Nothing we can do about that. You must be in control. They are your sovereign assets, your rights. You are in control. You can't ring up the bank and ask for a refund. Will not happen. Right? You can't ring up and go to someone like whinge to Facebook that you've $16 billion of ad money has come in because of scams that they've been using. You can go to the regulators, which is great, and whinge and complain, but that's it. So be careful. Don't panic. You may need to reinstall at some stage. In fact, there is another little protective measure that if you do venture into your files and you see the saved backup file, it'll start with My Secret, and you have that on your computer, and you open it up. It looks like a whole lot of Egyptian hieroglyphics. There's a lot of code and stuff in there. You can print that out. Worst case is you get a printed copy and put in a vault. All right, so get the printed copy and then just sit tight on it, because they will be able to reconstruct access into a new wallet using that information. Particularly the private key is in there and the public key, and that can then be put into a position with a new wallet that a developer will be able to do that, or a coder. It's only in PHP, but you can certainly put that in, and then that will verify itself against the split chain and confirm that that's exactly what you've got. So we haven't talked about that much yet. We do have coming down the road these little trinkets, things like QR codes that'll be in your wallet, so you'll be able to produce a QR code. Very, very dangerous though, because if anybody gets hold of the QR code and they use the wallet before you do and do a transaction, you are stuffed. You will not be able to access your wallet. But the QR code is an interesting one. We do have some people with some serious money over the journey that want a QR code, and they would put that QR code on a piece of metal, and then they would hide that out the back shed, and hopefully nobody knows what it means, and it's there through a fire or flood or whatever else, or the solar flares hit the this side of Earth, then of course you've got a protection against that, because your USBs would be worthless. Or, you might find that you've got your USB, you've forgotten you've taken it with you, and you're on Elon's little plane, a little spacecraft heading to Mars, and you get fried up there and your USB gets fried and it's all gone. So you've got to think down the road, depending on how long we end up before we end up on Mars. Then, of course, Dr. Zoo won't be going to Mars. I told you that. Got no interest at all. But be careful. Be very, very careful. Now, Elon could make ZuCoin the default currency on Mars. What Elon should be doing is trying to make money out of X with 200 odd million people without relying on ridiculous AI advertising and campaigns that are worthless, and creating basically the same levels of nonsense ads that create money like Facebook, with the fraudulent side of $16 billion, which is a massive chunk of their profits, by the way, which supports the campaigns of the great Mark Zuckerberg into AI, where he's spending hundreds of billions of dollars. So it goes around in, stupid land. But what they could do is they could get their head on and actually have a verifiable merchant relationship of real merchants with real ownership proofs against the split chain, and using fractions of ZuCoins or ZuCoins as that transfer of value within X. If he was half smart, if he's half as smart as that, well, he should launch a full bid for Google and end up with, billions and billions of people that could be also tapped into that space as well. But we can deliver based on what we've now achieved successfully, which has been highlighted particularly in, as I said, and I'll share more on Monday, the bullet points in relation to the Australian Financial Review Innovation of the Company 2026 Awards. I think I'll see if I can. This is a long one here from Sunny Hero. Let's just see what we've got. Dr. Zoo, you previously advised the 45-day marketing campaign has been placed on hold and, to my knowledge, has not been publicly relaunched with any confirmed dates. Can you please explain whether there is a specific reason for the mass market campaign is not running in parallel with the ongoing platform development and ecosystem growth initiatives? Many community members would be interested in understanding the rationale behind the timing and strategy, particularly given the importance of user adoption and market awareness. The simple answer to that is because we don't wish to overload the numbers that now come in and on board whilst we're waiting on AUSTRAC. Pretty basic, because what happens is we end up with thousands of people coming into support saying, when can we do this and when can we do that? And then we've got to go back. So the reality is it's on hold. We still push through the numbers that we see. There's 500 or 600 here and there. That just gives us the testing of those onboarding experiences. No real rush, and then we'll start to pump it out Obviously, the first thing will be, as soon as that AUSTRAC comes in, we can press that green button. As you know, Riley's got the instructions to do that. You guys can knock yourself out with the others, and then we'll start pushing harder. And mainly, the vast biggest chunk, now that we're satisfied with the onboarding side of things, we have rebuilt from ground up a complete integrated wallet through Zucas, which is a bit like a ZuCoin wallet on steroids that does all these wonderful things and picks up from the merchants and does all the trading, locking into Zutopia, etc. So the campaigns will be done through that, and we will roll that out. Doesn't mean to say we're going to want to have 10 million people on within the 7 days. We're not that stupid, but it'll ratchet itself up, and you just got to sit back, go for the ride, bring on others as you want, and wait or do the trading as you see fit. That's the least of our problems. The proof of being able to see the volumes pick up will be fantastic. And look, over the next 6 to 12 months, we'll be in a stronger position because, as you can see, you could have been on L-Bait or you could have been on 2,800 exchanges that are falling apart by the 1st of July, and we do everything timed to perfection. And that timing includes, blending in a bit more with events and circumstances that come up that we face in front of us. So that's the reason. I'm not in any hurry whatsoever to rush out and worry about having 1 million people whinging and complaining because they can't press the next button, which is the trading button. It's easy to get them on board. We've got the companies and things in place that we want, and we will just ratchet that up. As I said, the initial initiative will be about 20,000 is our target, and then we keep rolling that up. Next benchmark will be 100,000. Probably at that point, we won't even disclose at that point the full volumes of numbers, as long as the price is looking pretty good and it's achieving the outcomes on demand. Then we don't want our competitors to get too worked up with stuff, because we do have some big guns that want to bring us down that are competing with us and the ZuCoin. They didn't believe we could achieve what we're doing, and we are. So, there'll be plenty of time for those accolades, and we will do it that way. Now, yes, the AUSTRAC approval takes 90 days. Nothing we can do about that. We haven't had any material. Well, I did look at that the other day, actually, just on the AUSTRAC, everybody. There is a formal process. If they need more information, they actually send a formal letter, which is then submitted by secure email. If they need that material, they've got to give formal notice under the Act. There is a provision there for response times, etc. We don't really want that letter, because if that letter comes in and there is queries, it's not a bad thing. The bad thing is that it can re-trigger under the Act for them further 90 days from that letter. So on one hand, we just want to bubble along, lay low. Hopefully the material we supplied in the first instance, which it was very, very extensive, satisfies their techos and their people in their compliance divisions that say, yes, we are well ahead of what other companies are doing because of the strategies of what we got with split chain. So they will do a full review and analysis of the underlying programs and tech and flows, how it all operates, particularly things like the signatures and the verification of wallets, etc., which no one else is doing and no one else can do. And also the obviously the security of transferring coins off exchange between parties. So we will wait and see. Dr. Zoo doesn't want to go down that road, but let's see what's happening. And look, let's just sort of, there's a few more here than I thought since I looked at this, but let's just wind this here. Mass marketing clarity, no problems at all. Sunny Hero, it's just lay low a bit there. We've had plenty of time to work our mass marketing through and strategies, and you will find that the versions that I'm seeing, which is the upgrade versions of Zucas, are very, very powerful. They will allow you to store your fractions or ZuCoins in its own right, which you can then move back and forward to a normal ZuCoin wallet, or you then can. It'll obviously directly connect into, which makes it easier. It'll go into Zutopia, And that's specifically done because if you do the hunt and collect, or you get the direct fraction that comes with some value proposition from a merchant, then you'll either want to quickly create that in a QR code to redeem, or you'll want to put it on Zutopia instantly with a price and start trading. We are all about engagement. We're very, very happy with the time it's taken, much longer than I'd hoped, in terms of making it friendly and easy for the older generation to use the program. That is the ZuCoin wallet and Zutopia. We took a lot of hits from younger people that wanted to become multimillionaires and wanted to share in the Gordon Gecko scenario, but we have bigger pictures in mind and in play as a result, and we're comfortable with how we can now pull that off. Especially, there's a door here, there's a window here, people, just in closing, of, if you think about 2,800 exchange in Europe, the same effect's happening in America. Those people have to go somewhere, right? These are people that have been trading, that have assets, that may have wealth in those exchanges, and they've got to move somewhere. So there is a massive flow of database customers that will end up going somewhere, and we can deliver that outcome based on our humble little Zutopia, which is to our advantage. But at the end of the day, it's all about product, all about different things we can do. And I'll just leave on this note, this little one here is all about the ability to truly circle back. If the markets collapse, go down the shitter, then there's a window there of making some serious wealth using tokenization vis-a-vis the Zoo token fractions, as I said, for opportunities in the share markets around the world. Never thought that would happen again, but 87 was amazing. If you had money in 87, you were buying very, very cheap companies with considerable assets in them, cash flows, mining companies, gold companies, you name it, big time. And that door, Dr. Zoo never thought would be sort of coming around his lifetime, but that looks like that's the case, because you get a peak in the market and you get some combinations of things that are happening, and that ugly thing called inflation and interest rate rising is going to cause massive global problems, because every single country in the planet is up to its eyeballs in debt and will not sustain or be able to have the revenue streams like poor old Albo and Jimbo are desperately trying to do. So we'll leave on this little word of wisdom from the great Gordon Gecko again as to the vision that we have in the Zoo vision of Dr. Zoo. Is what he wants to play in. He wants to, as I said, massive cash flows, capacity, the firepower of globalizing transfer of value. Can't do it with Bitcoin. You can't do it with Ethereum. You won't do it with Litecoin. You're absolutely hopeless with any meme coins, but just keep an eye on Robert sending out more stuff from the developer docs, because it's getting very, very exciting. So here we go. Have a listen to this bloke. This is what Dr. Zoo wants to do.
I don't throw darts at a board. I bet on sure things. Read Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Every battle is won before it's ever fought. Think about it. You're not as smart as I thought you were, buddy boy. You ever wonder why fund managers can't beat the S&P 500? Because they're sheep. And sheep get slaughtered. I've been in this business since '69. Most of these Harvard MBA types, they don't add up to dog shit. Give me guys that are poor, smart, and hungry. And no feelings. You win a few, you lose a few, but you keep on fighting. And if you need a friend, get a dog.
Thanks, everybody. Let's look forward to it. Here we go. Keep it going. Cheers.